The rain had just stopped over downtown New York, leaving the streets shining beneath the evening lights. Inside the luxurious Montenegro Royale restaurant, crystal chandeliers sparkled above wealthy guests enjoying expensive dinners while soft piano music filled the room. At a corner table sat Isabel Montenegro, one of the city's most respected billionaires. At 62 years old, she owned one of the largest luxury hotel and restaurant empires in America. Dressed elegantly in a navy blue designer suit, she quietly finished her dinner alone. To everyone around her, Isabel looked like a woman who had everything. But behind her calm smile lived a pain she had carried for 22 years. Her little daughter had disappeared from a crowded charity festival when she was only 3 years old. Despite spending millions of dollars, hiring private investigators across several countries, and never giving up hope, Isabel never found her. Most people told her to move on. She never did. Every birthday, she still bought a small gift. Every Christmas, she left one empty chair at her dining table. And every night, before sleeping, she whispered the same words. "Wherever you are, I hope you're safe." At that very moment, the restaurant doors slowly opened. A young homeless woman stepped inside. Her clothes were old and soaked from the rain. Her shoes were torn. Her face looked exhausted from days without proper food. Her name was Lucy. She wasn't there to steal. She wasn't there to beg for money. She simply walked toward Isabel's table with trembling hands and quietly asked, "Ma'am, if you're not going to finish your meal, may I have the leftovers? I haven't eaten in 2 days." The entire restaurant suddenly fell silent. Guests looked at Lucy with disgust. Several people whispered for security. A waiter immediately rushed toward her, his face filled with anger. "Get away from our guests," he shouted. Lucy lowered her head in embarrassment. She quietly whispered, "I'm sorry. I was just hungry." Just as security started walking toward her, Isabel slowly stood up. "Stop." Everyone froze. Isabel looked directly at the frightened young woman. There was something strangely familiar about her eyes. Not her clothes. Not her hair. Just her eyes. With a calm voice, Isabel said, "She isn't bothering anyone. Bring her a fresh meal, not leftovers." The restaurant fell silent again. The waiter looked confused. "But, ma'am, I said a fresh meal." Within minutes, a hot dinner was placed in front of Lucy. Tears filled her eyes. No one had treated her with kindness in years. She folded her hands and whispered, "Thank you. I don't remember the last time someone looked at me like I was a human being." Isabel smiled gently. "Sit down." Lucy hesitated. "I'll dirty your table." "You won't." For the next few minutes, Isabel simply watched as Lucy slowly ate every bite, trying not to cry. She noticed the girl wasn't eating greedily. Instead, Lucy carefully wrapped half of the meal in a napkin. Isabel asked softly, "Why aren't you finishing it?" Lucy smiled sadly. "I always save half for tomorrow, because I never know when I'll eat again." That answer broke something inside Isabel. After dinner, Isabel asked, "Do you have a family?" Lucy shook her head. "I don't know who my parents are. I grew up moving from one shelter to another. I only remember waking up alone when I was very little." Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small silver necklace. "I've had this since I was a child. It was the only thing I had." The moment Isabel saw the necklace, her face turned completely pale. Her hands began to tremble. It wasn't just any necklace. It was one she had personally designed 22 years earlier. For her missing daughter. On the back were 2 tiny engraved initials. VM. Valentina Montenegro. Isabel could barely breathe. Her voice shook as she whispered, Where did you get this necklace? Lucy looked confused. I've worn it my whole life. I don't remember anything before it. A single tear rolled down Isabel's face. For the first time in 22 years. Hope returned. The restaurant manager quickly closed the dining room to give Isabel privacy. With trembling hands, she held the necklace close to her heart. Then she whispered. My daughter's name wasn't Lucy. It was Valentina. Lucy stared at her in complete confusion. I don't understand. Isabel slowly reached into her designer handbag and pulled out an old family photograph. It showed a young Isabel holding a smiling 3-year-old girl. Around the little girl's neck was the exact same silver necklace. Lucy's hands began to shake. She looked from the photo back to the necklace, then at Isabel. It can't be. Isabel gently touched Lucy's face. I searched for you every single day. I never stopped. Before either of them could say another word, the restaurant doors suddenly burst open. 3 well-dressed men stormed inside. Leading them was Isabel's nephew, Victor Montenegro. His face immediately turned pale when he saw Lucy. For years, Victor had believed the missing child was gone forever. If Valentina returned, she would become the legal heir to the Montenegro fortune. Everything Victor had planned would disappear. Trying to stay calm, he forced a smile. Aunt Isabel, don't believe this girl. She's obviously pretending. Lucy stepped back in fear. Victor pointed directly at her. Throw her out before she steals from you. The security guards looked toward Isabel, waiting for her decision. Instead of answering Victor, Isabel walked straight to Lucy. She gently wrapped her arms around the frightened young woman. With tears running down her face, she said, no one will ever throw my daughter out again. The entire restaurant stood frozen. Victor realized his biggest secret was about to collapse. Victor's confident smile disappeared. He knew that if Lucy was truly Valentina Montenegro, everything he had hoped to inherit would be gone forever. Trying one last time to save himself, he shouted. She's lying. Anyone could fake an old necklace. Isabel looked at him without fear. Then she calmly took out her phone. Call our family lawyer. And arrange a DNA test immediately. Victor's face turned white. 2 days later, the results arrived. The room was completely silent as the lawyer opened the envelope. He smiled gently before saying, the DNA test confirms a 99.99% match. Lucy is Valentina Montenegro. Isabel burst into tears and embraced her daughter. For 22 long years, she had prayed for this moment. Now she finally had her child back. The investigation that followed uncovered a dark truth. The people responsible for Valentina's disappearance had hidden her identity when she was a little girl. She had spent her entire childhood moving from shelters to the streets, never knowing who she really was. Victor's role in covering up parts of the family's past was exposed. He was removed from every position in the Montenegro companies, and the authorities opened a formal investigation into those responsible for the old crime. But Isabel refused to let hatred define the rest of their lives. Instead, she and Valentina chose a different path. Together, they created the Valentina Hope Foundation, providing free meals, shelter, education, and legal support for homeless children and struggling families across the country. The same young woman who once asked for leftovers was now serving thousands of hot meals every single day. One evening, while helping at the foundation's community kitchen, a little girl nervously asked, "Ma'am, may I have the leftovers?" Valentina smiled, knelt beside her, and gently replied, "No, sweetheart. Here, everyone gets a fresh meal." Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't begin with wealth. They begin with a single act of kindness.